Hello YouTube! We're on the real programming channel about HTML and CSS for beginners, and I'm his host. My name is Andrei. I greet you, welcome on my channel. This is our 97th lesson. We will talk about there are two primary methods. The browser uses post and get. Okay, let's go. Post and get accomplish the same thing, getting your forum data from the browsers to a server, but in two different ways. Post packages up your forum variables and sends them behind the scenes to your server, while get also packages up your forum variables, but appends them on the end of the URL before it sends a request to the server. With post, all the forum data is sent as part of the request and is invisible to the user. The user just sees the server script's URL in her browser addresses bar. With get, the forum data is added to the URL itself, so the user sees the forum data. Notice the forum data added to the end of the URL. This is what the user sees in the addresses bar. Okay. Watching get in action. There is no better way to understand get than to see it in action. Open your forum HTML file and make the following small changes. Just change the method from post to get. And save and reload the page, then fill out the form and submit it. You should see something like this. You'll see this URL in your browser. Now you can see every form element name and its values right here in the URL. Notice that the browsers encode various characters like spaces. The server script will automatically decode this when it receives them. There are no dumb questions. Why is it called get if we are sending something to the server? Good question. What's the main job of a browser? To get web pages from a server, and when you're using get, the browser is just going about getting a web page in the normal way it always does, except that in the case of a form to happen has appended some more data to the end of the URL. Other than that, the browser just acts like its normal request. With post, on the other hand, the browser actually creates a little data package and sends it to the server. So why would I use post over get or vice versa? There are a couple of big differences that really matter. If you want users to be able to bookmark packages that are the result of submitting form, then you have to use get, because there is no way to bookmark a page that has been returned as a result of a post. When would you want to do that? Say you have a server script that returns a list of search results. You might want users to be able to bookmark those results can see them again without having to fill out the form. On the other hand, if you have a server script that processes orders, then you wouldn't want users to be able to bookmark the page. Otherwise, every time they return to the bookmark, the order would be resubmitted. A situation when you'd never want to use a get is when the data in your form is private, like a credit card or a password, because its URL is in a plain view. The private information is easily found by others if they look toward your browser history or if the get somehow gets bookmarked. Finally, if you use a text query, you should use post, because you probably are sending a lot of data. Both get and post requests have a limit on the amount of data you can send, but the limit on a post request is usually much larger. Okay, exercise. Sharpen your pencil and a sheet of paper, get or post. For each description, circle either get or post depending on which method would be more appropriate. If you think it could be either, circle both, but be prepared to defend your answer. I've been meaning to say great job on the bean machine. This is really going to boost our coffee bean sales. All you need to do is give this a little style and we're ready to launch it for our customers. Okay, brain power. Given everything you know about HTML and CSS, how would you approach styling this form? Next exercise. Sharpen your pencil. Forms are usually tabular in their layouts, so you'll probably find that using a CSS table display layouts works well for designing your form's presentation, and that's what we'll use to lay out the bean machine form. With this table display layout, the page will look like a real form rather than a rigid collection of input elements, and it will be easier to read. Before we do that, let's figure out the table structure that is inherent in this form, starting with the sketch below. Fit the elements into a table. Hint, we found it fits nicely into 2 columns and 14 rows. So each row is represented with each block element, and each cell is also represented with a block element. Notice you may have to add some structure to the HTML to make this work. No peeking at the next page before you do the exercise. Really, cover it up or something. Okay, do you ready for a solution for this exercise? Let's go. This is our solution. Okay, here is what we come up with compared to your solution before moving on. Here is a sketch of the table. Here it's a simple display layout with 2 columns and 14 rows, a row for each main part of the form. We have thrown all the input elements into the right-hand column. Notice that we have grouped each set of checkboxes and radio buttons into the cell. Remember that each cell corresponds to a block element, so we'll add some more P elements to make sure we've got a separate block element for each cell. And we'll also need some extra block elements for the rows. We'll use div elements just like we did before in chapter 11. And finally, we'll need one element that contains everything for the table itself. We can use the form element for this. We made the text area bigger too. The cell on the left of the submit buttons is empty. There is no label to put here. The cell on the right of ship 2 is empty. There is no control here. The cell values are aligned vertically top the top. The labels for each form element go in the left column. Okay, getting the form elements into your HTML structure for table display layout. Now that you know how to organize the form elements in a table display layout, you need to put your HTML writing skills to the test, so get typing. Just kidding, we wouldn't make you type all this after all. This chapter is really about forms, not table display layout. We already typed this in the form. Is it in a file styledform.html in the chapter 14 starbuzz folder. Even though it looks complicated, it's really not that bad. We added a few annotations below to point out the main parts. Here is the form element. We are going to use this element for the table part of the display. We are using a div with a class table row for each row in a table, and this content of each cell is nested inside the P element. For each bean selection menu, the bean type radio buttons and the extras checkboxes, we put all the form elements for each menu in the one data cell. Code continues on the next page. For the row contain just B label ship 2, we added a class heading to the P, so we can bold this text. Notice that we also got an empty cell in the right column, so we can just put an empty P element here. All the rows are strange for the table row div for the row and each cell in a P. And for the last row we got an empty cell in the left column, so again we can use an empty p element for that. Okay, styling the form with CSS, and we will talk about this in the next lesson, and this concludes our lesson 97. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel, please put likes, share with friends, comment, eat bananas, eat fruit, drink more water for the effective work of our brains, do exercise in the evening, and read more book for this topic. Okay, that's all, thank you, bye!